Hey YouTube, Tristan Blaze back again. We are looking at, if you know what this is, you know what this is. If you read the title, you know what this is. Soviet camp stove. This is the Soviet Touristy camp stove. As the legend goes, this thing can run off of any flammable liquid. It can run off of denatured alcohol, also known as white alcohol or white gasoline. It can run off of kerosene. It can run off of regular gasoline. Anything liquid and flammable, this thing will burn. Okay, it will vaporize. Actually, let me look at the. There's been a little bit of conjecture, so I pulled up the full spec sheet here. 0.13 liters. Okay, so your tank right here is 0.13 liters. I've seen these things listed as 1.3 liters, which obviously you can see size comparison. I'm 5'6". I'm not a big dude. That's not one. That's not a liter. Okay, because this is what I use to hold excess fuel. I use denatured white gasoline, white alcohol. Okay, this is what I use. This right here isn't even a liter, and you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about, aka me. It is self-pressurized. So basically what ends up happening is, let me pull this out. These are just some extra spare parts. Got a wick, got some, gaskets, extra spare gaskets, stuff like that. This is to help me fill my tank. Very, very easy. Oh, you also have a little tool right here that you can pull out. And it can be used to adjust various things. Say this, for example, right here. You can fit that around it. There's, I'm trying to, I don't want to pull the thing apart, which is why I'm just saying, like, this is like a tool you use to adjust stuff. Okay. This has been refurbished. It was refurbished in the Ukraine before I bought it. Okay, got it on eBay. How do we know it's not the Swedish version? If you can read Cyrillic, that would be a good thing to see. Focus. Yeah. And then basically it just goes in right there. Now, here is how you're going to pressurize this. One, you're going to put your hands on this. Okay, that is going to bring some water into this little tray right here. That's where, not water, it's going to bring alcohol into this, your fuel into that. Me, on the other hand, I don't have that much time to wait. So I'm going to do this as carefully as possible. I want these out of here just so I have a bit more room. This makes it a little bit easier to dump some. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do something a little bit smarter. I'm gonna grab this. Yeah. Because that's gonna make it a lot easier. Good. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot for this. And yeah. We'll reattach this later. Okay. So that is going to sit there for a little bit. And more importantly, I'm going to move this out of the way. There we go. That's not going to be any problems. So what, in God's name, does this do? Well, this opens everything up, okay? I know people are going to be asking the immortal question. Well, what does this do? What does it work? You know, what is it meant for? And like, are there certain mess kits that it can use and other mess kits it can't use? Generally, I found all mess kits work good. So standard type of like kidney style mess kits, East German, West German, Soviet, Romanian, they'll fit very, very easily on here. You've got your standard American style mess kit. Fits on here very, very easily. Even if you want to go a little bit odd and you're going to use Yugoslavian JNA mess kit, it will still fit on there. So generally speaking, pretty much any mess kit, as long as it is metal, is going to work. Okay? Now, this is your heat shield. This is to prevent this from getting too hot. If this gets too hot, and I mean if this gets too hot, this little part here is going to emergency release pressure, which basically means this is going to spit fuel that way, and it's going to be on fire. And you're going to see about a nice 6-foot arc of fuel just on fire, spraying off into the distance to basically burn off the pressure. Well, you know, release the pressure and, you know, unheat it, if you will. So keep that there. When you have a very big skillet, this is a necessary thing, because if you're like this and this gets hot, this is, yeah, it literally will just be a fire hazard. Now, how do you start this? Well, as I said, the way we pressurize it first is we can move our hands here. The whatever liquid fuel will go into this little container there. It pressurizes itself, and then you can light it with any type of a spark. Now, you could use something like a ferrocerium rod, very, very easy. You could also use a lighter if you got it down there somehow. But the best way to do this is to use a match, because you can easily do that. This is a very, very thick stone that I'm using. On my kitchen table. Now, right now, the way this will be turned is you turn it one way all the way for open or full on gas, and then midway is closed, and then full open the other way is the cleaning setting. Okay? This legitimately smells like vodka. This does smell like vodka. Will this run on vodka? Probably not. Don't try to run it on vodka. Okay? Really? You freaking kidding me? That is... Look at this. The things are falling apart. I can't believe this. These things are falling apart. Thank you. Maybe you can see that. Probably not. No, you can barely see it, the little blue flame. Okay. So what it's doing now is it's burning this and it's pressurizing this and allowing the liquid to be fed in through the wick that you have. This is the extra wick that you get. Then when you turn it on, about a minute, you can hear it. And I can feel the heat. Now it's off. On. Off. On. Off. On. All in all, this thing is, woo, man. Damn, I can feel it. Obviously, it's a Soviet jet engine that they've put in a small compact area. Okay, we've burned our fuel out, so we're good. I didn't put that much fuel in here, and you can feel this is a little bit warmer. The heat shield is definitely warm. Definitely warm. But generally speaking, you got about an hour worth of fuel with this. You got 0.13 liters in this. That's about an hour worth of fuel. You carry spare fuel in this right here. This is 740 milliliters or 0.74 liters. You have 0.87 liters. Generally looking at around 9 to 9.5 hours of burn time. That's with this and just the tank itself being fueled up all the way. It is a very, very light. It is a very, very, you're looking at a couple of pounds. Ooh, that is hot. I like it. Generally speaking, I would say this is probably about a couple of pounds. Full kit, full load, 3 pounds is what I'd be looking at for just this right here. Probably about at least another pound for this. So figure 4 pounds, full fuel. This would be in like a food bag, a secondary type of ration bag. This will allow you to cook indoors if you need to. Now you want proper ventilation. Yes, this is a marine grade fuel source that if you have like a yacht, or if you had like a schooner or something where you had a below deck kitchen or just an enclosed kitchen on your ship, you would use this fuel. You would use this fuel to cook with. However, that doesn't mean you're not going to generate vapors. You're not going to generate toxic fumes, things like carbon monoxide. I'm not 100% certain about those. But you always want to be careful of doing this, especially when you're in a very enclosed area like a canvas tent, okay? If you have a canvas tent that has openings, like you open the front door, okay, and you have a way to vent anything out, and it's just you're in the tent because it's raining, that's perfectly fine. The gas and all the vapors are venting out, you're fine. This can run off a rubbing alcohol. This can run off a very dirty fuel that will cause soot to build up. That is something you need to be aware of, because if you're using that fuel, you're probably going to need to clean this a lot. You're using the clean fuel, the white alcohol, the way I do it. It's generally, you, again, depending on how often you use it, maybe a year or two you clean it. Okay, maybe every year or two you clean it. All right? It's not freaking crazy. I did make a mistake. When you have it opened up at the middle, that's when it comes out. When you have it all the way one side and all the way to the other side turned, that's when it's off. I flipped that around. That was my mistake earlier in the video. This was about $100, made with pride in the Soviet Union. This is a knockoff of the Swedish version that Coleman sold back in the day. Parts are not interchangeable. You cannot move one part from a Coleman Swedish style stove to this one or vice versa. You can't do it, okay? you want to rebuild one of these, you got to get the Soviet parts. All right. Generally speaking, these things work really good. I've seen people high altitude cooking, 14,000 feet high, use it. I've seen people use this when it was 10 degrees, and that's 10 degrees Fahrenheit, Euro pours, not Celsius. 10 degrees Fahrenheit would probably be like -8 centigrade, I believe. I've seen people use this in very, very wet conditions, when it's pouring rain, when it's snowing. I've seen people use this in various environments. Again, muggy, hot, tropical, it'll light up. As long as you take care of it, it will light up. Soviet and Eastern Bloc kit falls under 2 categories. It is complete and utter dog shit, or if you actually took care of it, this would save your life. An AK-47 is one of those. A GP5 gas mask is one of those. One of these, the Touristy Soviet stove, is another one. The Veshmashuk is another one. If you took care of them, they could last you a lifetime and save your ass multiple times. Okay. We are cold. Yeah. Oh wait. Wrong. I gotta put you there. Duh. Oh, wait. We got the latch, we got the carrying handle, one finger, pinky finger to carry it. And it's not leaking anything. There's no water coming out because it's all enclosed. Very good stove, very, very simple. There are slight modifications that can be made. You can buy one of these caps that has an actual pump, and you can pump it to pressurize everything, get the water into the little container at the bottom, and light it. You can do that. I haven't with this one, just simply because this is how it came, and I really want to keep it this way. I like it. You can still find these on eBay. There literally is a shop on eBay where the one I got this at, he had like 15 more that he had refurbished all of these, and he was selling them for like $100. So, Soviet Touristy camp stove, lightweight, compact. I mean, come on. It's literally like, it's the size of a Big Mac. Okay, like literally, this is the size of a box a Big Mac comes in, okay? And it's freaking brutal. It's freaking amazing. Full tank, one of these, you got like 9 hours of cooking time. Factor that it takes about, what, 7 minutes, maybe, you know, we'll just say 10 minutes. 10 minutes to boil a mess kit full of water, so you can use whatever freeze-dried, dehydrated rations you want to use. You got 6 meals, roughly just off of that. We'll err on the side of caution and say 5. So 5 times, 5 in 1 hour times 9 hours. You have 45 meals that you can prep off of this. You probably do not bring 45 meals to a field environment with you. So I love it. I really love it. I like it. What I will say is I'll do some mess kit reviews. And in my mess kit reviews, I'll try to cook something native from that country's mess kit. So for like the German mess kits, whether it's East or West, I'll cook some like German dish. Yugoslavian dish for the Yugoslav mess kit. Maybe I'll do like some tushonka and buckwheat for the Soviet mess kits. But I'll do it off of this to show you how easy you can use this. All right, thank you, YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because, as Count Dankula says, it really helps me in the algorithm. And I gotta shave that gray hair off. Why didn't you guys tell me I have gray hair?